We're just a few days away from 2026, and attention is more fragmented than ever. Ads are more expensive, and trust is just harder to earn. And yet there's one piece of content that still builds authority, builds relationships, a long-term ROI better than almost anything else. No, it's not reels and it's not ads. It's a podcast. So back in 2008, my buddy Travis and I got iPhones. They were the new thing back then, and we found this little app on an iPhone that was an audio app that you could just record audio, like a little audio recorder. And so what we did with it is we started playing around with it around the office and started making these little short form podcasts. Before podcasts, that was even really a term. It was kind of a new term back then. But we started recording these little short segments that were pretty silly and downright stupid. But we had fun doing it. And after recording about 4 or 5 of them, we thought, hey, why don't we put this out as a podcast? So we did, and we called it the Troy and Travis Show. And that was my first time entering the podcast space. And the Troy and Travis Show lasted for about 30 episodes, 30 short episodes. I think our longest one was about 12 minutes, but it was 2 or 3 guys in a advertising agency making dumb voices like Skeletor and He-Man and different characters that we grew up watching, cartoon characters that we grew up watching. And we would just make funny little skits and record them on our phones and upload them. And it was that easy. We didn't gain a lot of traction because we were just having fun. We weren't trying to do anything crazy with it. But we did get an email one time from somebody, I believe it was in North or South Carolina, that said they enjoyed the show and they were a long-time listener. So that was actually pretty funny. So with podcasts, you can get a long reach, even if it's something silly and dumb like the Troy and Travis Show. But, of course, when you're creating a podcast or you're creating any kind of content for your business, you definitely want to be strategic. And I believe that podcasts can be very strategic, and they are strategic. They're not just a trend. They're here. They've been here since the early 2000s, and they're not going away. Another thing podcasts are, they're owned media. Like, you own it. There's no body behind the scenes that owns your podcast. It's not rented attention to those people that are watching it either, like with reels and shorts and ads. You just have their attention for just a quick moment. No, podcasts, when people subscribe to your podcast, they enjoy your content. They want to listen to your content. And if you keep putting out the same content in the same niche and they're still interested in it, they're going to continue to listen. So on social media, algorithms change a lot, but RSS feeds don't. And what is an RSS feed if you're asking that? It's where your podcast is hosted. It has an RSS feed link that is where your podcast is stored. There's no other media format out there that really gives this kind of credibility or trust to the public that a podcast brings. So with podcasts, people aren't just binging ads. They're binging your conversations that you might be having with others, or they're binging content that you're putting out that they are engaged in and they are learning something about your business. And so let's talk about why podcasts usually fail. This is where you can actually separate yourself from the, I want to start a podcast crowd, or for people who are in it in the long haul. So common failure points may be that there was no strategy beyond, hey, we should just start a podcast. Or maybe they don't have like a clear niche or an outcome or a clear audience that they're trying to reach. Now, with somebody that's starting a business podcast, they should already have these things lined out for them. So, you might not have a repurposing plan put in place? Are you going to cut the podcast up into shorts and reels and put those out there to try to gain new followers? Your podcast might fade after like 6 to 10 episodes. Podcasting really is a commitment. If you don't commit to continually upload and continually bring relevant content to your audience, they're not going to listen, and it's not going to get easier. You have to commit to staying consistent. We talk about consistency a lot on this podcast. You have to stay consistent for the algorithm to feed your podcast to other people. So, podcasting really doesn't fail because it doesn't work. It fails because most people treat it like a hobby instead of a business asset. So, if you're treating it like a business asset, it may be the cornerstone of your marketing, and other cobblestones fall in line behind it. You need to definitely treat it more like a business asset instead of a hobby. So what should podcasting really be used for? You know, it could be the anchor, like I was saying, the cornerstone anchor of your marketing. It can give you authority and build authority in your crowded market industry. No matter what industry you're in, if you're showing up weekly and putting out content that is talking about your industry, you will become the authority in your industry. You can use your podcast as sales. You can send different episodes, different clips out to your client list or to prospects. So there are many different things you can do with a podcast. You can cut it up into reels, YouTube clips, blog posts. You can create email content that you send out to different lists that you have in your CRM. And you always want to be strategic with your podcast. You have guests on that are related to your industry. That would be a strategic guest who maybe you want to tap into their audience, or maybe you want to tap into their client sphere. You could also give warm introductions through your podcast to other people in similar industries. So it's important to remember that a podcast isn't necessarily your product or your service. It's the platform that all of your information runs on. So why should I start a podcast in 2026? Is this the right time? Is it too late? I mean, there's already so many podcasts out there about my industry. Why should I start one? There are a lot of podcasts out there. The market is saturated, and it's becoming more and more saturated. But if you can stay consistent and stay active and execute weekly, you will surpass those podcasts that started, and did 6 episodes or 10 episodes and quit. You'll surpass them very quickly. A lot of businesses are pulling back on ads and leaning into trust-based marketing. Video podcasting is now one of the baseline expectations, and it's not like the upgrade. So the bar has moved, but the opportunity is still very wide open for people who do it intentionally. Like I said in the beginning, you need to be strategic and you need to be consistent. So some of the hardest things that can stop you from starting a podcast would be setup, knowing if you can be consistent. How do I distribute the podcast, and how do I repurpose the podcast? What all does that mean? Do I have to buy all this expensive gear? Do I have to hire an editor? Like, what does all this mean? Well, if you're going to start one from scratch, the best thing to do is to test your consistency. I would start with an iPhone or with a small recorder or some lav mic, something simple that you can purchase, or, like I said, your iPhone will work if that's already something that you have, your smartphone. It can be a Google phone or an Android. Either one works. They all have recorders on them. So that would be able to, you could record 4 to 8 episodes and see if you can stay consistent with it. What we tell all of our clients to do, and what I do normally, is batch record your episodes. So if you have 4 episodes written that you can get down, or if you have 4 guests lined up, you can batch those in a day. That way you have your whole month taken care of, and you can pass it off to an editor, or you can get those things edited quicker when you batch record them, so you're not trying to rush through and edit or upload a new podcast every week, because that can really sting your consistency when you're trying to rush and get something out really fast to hit that date on your podcast upload date. You want to start simple, start with something you have, but if you have the funds to purchase a room full of gear, I would certainly say do it. Go ahead and pull the trigger if you know you're going to be consistent. But a good thing to do would be to start simple, to see if you can be consistent with it or not. So who is podcasting for? It's for service-based businesses who want to talk about their services. It's for founders who have owned a business for a long time and they want to talk about their expertise. Maybe company that was selling a course or launching a course. Companies that are tired of chasing algorithms. A podcast is a great way to get your information out there and to share it with your client lists. Brands that are playing the long game. Podcasts are a great thing for you. Some people who might not be a fit are people that are looking for instant viral videos. A podcast is probably not going to do that. It's not for anyone unwilling to commit to consistency. When I started the Hard-Headed podcast, it's been 5 years ago now, we committed to a certain amount of time that we were going to do, and we exceeded that amount, and we ended up closing down the podcast, or we stopped recording after 4 years of batch recording 4 at a time, when our schedules just got too crazy that we all three could not meet. There were 3 of us on that podcast. But if you can start and commit in the early beginning, like, hey, I'm going to commit to doing this 6 months, and then see where we're at on the 4th, 5th month. And then when that 6 months is up, say, okay, that was great. We're seeing a lot of, we're getting a lot of calls, or it's doing what we want it to do. We're becoming the authority. Just whatever goals you have set for yourself and for the podcast, if you are exceeding those or hitting those goals, commit to another 6 months. Try it out again. I will say that in 2026, the businesses that win won't be the loudest businesses. They'll be the most trusted. And trust is built through conversations with people over time and at scale. And that's why podcasting in 2026 still matters. So if you're curious at what that could look like for your business, that's exactly why the podcast room exists. Okay, next segment is Film Talk. And I want to talk about a movie that I recently rewatched for the first time. I've only seen it one time before, and it is called Ready Player One. It is a movie that was released back in 2018, and the movie takes place in 2045. And it is a world where everyone is like synced up playing this real virtual reality video game, and it gets wild really fast in this movie. It starts out with a race scene, and they are trying to the guy that created the virtual world that everybody is addicted to, he dies, and he plants these 3 keys hidden in the game, and those 3 keys lead to the Easter egg that you can then find, and if you're the one that finds it, you inherit everything that the creator of the game left for the person that inherits it. You inherit the game and all the controls and everything over all the game. And so that sets off, all these people going out and trying these different races that he created to try to find the keys, and it's a pretty amazing movie. It's a good concept, and that movie was only put out, 8 years ago in 2018, and I feel like we've even come closer to what that movie is all about in the virtual world and of gaming. And it's just crazy to see, or to even think where this is going to go. what's going to happen with that whole world in our real world. Is it going to turn into something like that where people are just addicted and crazy to it? Now, I have a suspicion that it's already happening with a lot of our younger population, especially here in the U.S. Just a theory, though, but I think a lot of kids are playing games a lot, and they're actually making money doing it. So it's keeping them from joining the other workforce, like the traditional workforce, in that they're making money online. And who didn't, like, when you were a kid in the 80s and you watched the movie The Wizard, didn't you say, like, hey, I want to play video games and get paid for it for the rest of my life? Yeah, I actually said that out loud when I was a kid. And nowadays it's easier than ever to do it, and kids are taking advantage of that, and they're doing it. But in this movie, Ready Player One, another thing that I love about the movie is all the throwback references to, like, the 80s and some 70s movies and things. A lot of pop culture in it, but it's definitely worth a look to go check out that movie again and kind of compare it to where we've come now that we have AI and everything that exists to what's in that movie. So, yeah, quick film talk this episode, because I think I went pretty long with the podcast talk. But yeah, if you need a podcast, happy to help, happy to give you some information if you're wanting to start your own, or if you want to use the podcast room, it is open as well. And if you haven't seen Ready Player One, go check it out. I think it's on Netflix, but it might be leaving soon. I don't know, but I'm sure you can rent it somewhere. All right, I'm Troy, and this has been Strategic Motion. We'll see you next time.